Good morning. It's Monday morning, the eve of Yom HaShoah. It has been 75 years since the end of World War II, a period that saw the destruction of European Jewry and the destruction of 1/3 of our people, losses from which we will never recover. We need to tell the story over and over again. We need to tell the story of how the enemy attempted to completely annihilate our people. We need to tell the story of resistance and heroism of Jews during the war. And we need to tell the story of their lives before the war. Those stories need to be told over and over again, because it is the memory of those stories that form our character and our collective consciousness. Those memories shape us and determine our future. But on this eve of Yom HaShoah, I want to talk about one thing and one thing only, however. I want to talk about survivors. We know that during the current crisis of COVID-19, too many survivors have lost their lives to this disease. And this compels us even a little more to remind ourselves of their courage and their resilience. After the war, we were a broken people. And one of the most remarkable parts of the story of the survivor is how many of them so quickly got married in displaced persons camps and DP camps and had children. The children of DP camps, of whom I've had the privilege of knowing many, kids born in DP camp, are to me the greatest emblem of Jewish hope and Jewish resistance. Resistance against despair and pessimism, resistance against death. And they got married and they had children. Those DP babies are now in their early 70s and mid-70s. Those children who went on to lead beautiful lives in their own right, who are now grandparents, is a remarkable story of Jewish strength. We kept going. There was a man who now passed away. He used to daven in this synagogue every morning and every night, named Moshe Silberman. He had lost his wife and 2 children in the war. He had lost his parents in the war, and if memory serves, 8 brothers and sisters. He had lost everything. And he married again, and he had children and grandchildren, a wonderful family. But I couldn't understand how he continued to come to shul every morning and every night after having suffered the loss of parents, spouse, children, siblings, everyone in his family. And he said to me something I'll never forget. He said, after the war, he said, in Yiddish, he said it to me, I didn't know anymore what I was supposed to think about anything. But I knew what I was supposed to do. I had to keep being a Jew. And that's the story of survivors. So much was shattered. So much was lost. They had been abandoned during the war by all forces of the universe. And they had seen so much death and despair. And yet after the war, they chose life. They had every reason to give up on life, on Judaism, on everything. But they didn't. They continued to live and to live as Jews. And that strength is the most unique part of the Holocaust story. The hatred of the enemy, the violence of the adversary, the murderous intent of so many, is in fact not the most unique part of the story. The most unique part of the story is the strength of survivors and their resilience and their courage, and that they live to see children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren is the greatest answer to those who would seek to harm us, is that we keep living, and we keep living with hope and with joy. And that strength and that resilience of the survivors has shaped the course of Jewish history. We have been blessed in our community to be surrounded by survivors and now by their children, who are constant reminders of that incredible Jewish spirit, of the resistance against despair, and of the embrace of hope and joy. So on this eve of Yom HaShoah, let's pay tribute to those survivors, the most remarkable generation of people to ever walk this earth.